Reactive moves don't just get you out of trouble, they create opportunities. If you're not using them right, you're missing out on one of the most powerful abilities in 10th edition. Let's break down how to make them work for you. Part 1. What are reactive moves? So what are reactive moves? Let's break down the concept of them and kind of go from there. So the first thing is, a reactive move is usually when a unit ends within X amount of inches, usually 9. The unit that triggers this can either with a stratagem or a unit ability move a certain amount. So the main one here, the most common one people will see, is squad tactics for Space Marines, which is in the Gladius Task Force. So we can show that up now. It's when your opponent's movement phase just after an enemy unit ends a normal advance or fallback move. One Adeptus Astartes infantry or mounted unit from your army within 9 inches of that enemy unit that just ended that move. Your unit can make a normal move of up to d6 inches, or a normal move of up to 6 inches instead if it's under the effect of the tactical doctrine. Restrictions: if you're in engagement range, you cannot pick those units. So these, because they're normal moves, you can't do a fallback move with them, so they just add that in there for a bit of clarity. But a lot of these abilities work the same, but there are different phases that these can work in. So we have squad tactics, which is in your movement phase. There's also ones like Swift as the Eagle and the new Lions of the Emperor detachment for Custodes, where it's in your opponent's shooting phase just after an enemy unit has shot one Adeptus Custodes unit from your army, excluding vehicles, that was selected as the target of one or more of those attacking units' attacks. Your unit can make a normal move of up to d6 inches. So this is a movement phase reactive move. So this is the different phase. Then we also have opportunistic raiders from Renegade Raiders and Chaos Space Marines. And this is end of the fight phase. One Heretic Astartes unit from your army that was eligible to fight this phase. If your unit is not within engagement range of one or more enemy units, it can make a normal move of up to 6 inches or up to 12 inches if it's a mounted unit. Otherwise, your unit can make a fallback move. It cannot embark within a transport at the end of this move if it disembarks from a transport this turn. So those are 3 different ways you can use reactive moves in different phases with different armies. Obviously, you're not going to have access to all of these different moves in one army. You're going to have access to, most of the time, a movement phase reactive move. Situationally, you might have a reactive move in the shooting phase, or like Chaos Space Marines here. I think Drukhari have that as well, where they can get back into a raider. These fight phase reactive moves, and each of them have a different way you kind of battle how to deal with them. There's a lot of these things, they require some setup and things to kind of go your way, especially with the fight phase one, the shooting phase one. Like, there's different ways you can set them up to be used against you, or to be used, like, not be able to be used against you as much. But for the first part of this video, we're going to be talking about how to use reactive moves. But some of the main things first is there's also datasheets abilities. Usually I think these ones are all movement phase based. So this is like the Emperor's Children Chaos Spawn have, I think it's Scuttling Horrors. It's like once per turn when an enemy unit ends a normal fallback move within 9 inches, then you can make a normal move of up to 6 inches. So that's another access. But some of the key points you need to know about for reactive moves is they are normal moves. So unless specified otherwise, you can get into transports with them. So if you react a move and you end wholly within 3 inches of a transport with your unit, you can then embark within it as long as the transport has capacity and all the other requirements that getting into embarking into a transport you need to do. Another key point is you can't use it if you're on engagement range. So a good way to play around reactive moves is, if you're on engagement range and you don't want that unit to reactive move, is you move everything else first, and then if you still need to, then allow them to reactive move when you fall back with that unit. And if you can fall back outside of the range of the fallback threshold, then you're fine. But otherwise, yeah, like, play around it as best you can. And always they are locked to a phase. There's no reactive move that's in the movement, shooting, and fight phase. So you usually only have to play around one of the phases, usually the movement, because most of them are movement phase based, but there are some shooting phase, which are like target priority kind of decisions you need to make, and then the fight phase ones, which are quite tricky to play around. Part 2. How to use reactives. So now we have an understanding of the basics of a reactive move. We understand how they work and kind of the basics of the key points for them. What do you have to do to plan to use reactive moves well? Well, the first thing is especially if it's a D6 reactive move, is you have to plan for the low rolls. Can you set it up that if you roll a 1 or a 2 that you're still doing what you need to do, or is it on a 2-up that you can get back behind a wall so you can't be shot, or you can move onto the objective or off the objective depending if that changes the methodology. So plan for as low a roll as possible to give yourself the most amount of success as possible. And then you mainly want to be using these things defensively. It's rare that you want to set up a user reactive move to set up something aggressively, like push just directly forward. But there are armies that I'm putting this model on to just deny your primary. It's like, well, I'm just going to reactive move this unit, so now I have more OC on the objective. So that's like using that aggressively. But most of the time you want to be using it to defend your units, keep your stuff alive, getting another use out of them. It's quite common with melee units that you'll go and kill something in the charge phase, consolidate onto the objective, and then something else will come up to clear you off that objective, and you can potentially reactive move behind a wall or back to some safety, back into a transport. Those are kind of the more defensive uses and the more common uses of a reactive move. But that is not the only way you can use a reactive move. You can also set up for heroics. This is more of a defensive / aggressive play, especially if your reactive moving unit has fights first or is quite durable, so like Deathwing Knights, they're quite a durable unit. You can reactive move them and then be wholly within 6 inches of another unit to be able to heroic no matter where the other enemy unit charges. So then you might lose a guy, but then you can kill the unit, and then you kind of have this extra kind of ability and gain a bit of a tempo swing. And it's also amazing with fights first, being able to, heroic in, fights first, delete just a unit, really swing opportunities in a game. That can be really, really big. And you can also kind of like dictate where your opponent moves and doesn't move, especially with on WTC with how the ruins are shaped. You can quite often force very specific firing lines, so you can kind of choose where your opponent is interacting with you and where they're not, because it's like you need to get within 9 inches to see this angle, and then if you get within 9, I'm going to move back behind the wall, and then you don't shoot me at all. So you're just going to leave the unit there or force me to spend the CP. You can put your opponent in a lot of decisions, and often the correct choice is to force the reactive move, but then you're getting the tempo swing, you're getting to move them where you need to, and depending on how your opponent's moved, you might be able to actually just move them forward because they've actually already moved their guns. I can actually just move forward, or they've advanced this unit and they don't have access to advance and charge. I'm just going to move forward and kind of push and set up the interactions where you want them. Really, really powerful stuff you can do here. Part 3. How to beat reactives. So now we've kind of gone over some of the basics of how to use reactives. Let's talk about the other side of the coin, because you'll be better at using reactives if you also know how to beat reactive moves, right? Your opponent's going to have them just as often as you do, so you need to be able to play around them, and the more you understand how to play around them, the better you'll use them yourself as well. So the first thing we have is plan your movement. Like, make sure that you are planning everything out before you move a single model, and then you can bait the moves early, which means like, well, I don't care if you move before I've moved X, Y, and Z unit, so I'm going to move this other A, B, and C units first. See if you can bait the reactive, or maybe bait it in a place where isn't as ideal, so then you can still do the thing you want to do. And if they don't use it, then you just have to move around and just not allow it to happen when you're moving X, Y, Z units. So like whether it's a firing angle, a charge angle, you might just be like, well, I'm either going to try for a 9-inch charge. I'm behind a wall, so I'm a bit safe. I'm just going to go for the 9 because I don't want to allow him to reactive move. Plan to bait it as much as possible, and if you have a very fast unit, a great thing you can do is actually move block behind them, so the only place they can react to move is forwards, which obviously isn't going to be very good because they can't move within engagement range with these unless it's a blood surge ability, but that's a different ability, so we're not going to go into those today. So if you can move block them, force them in a certain direction so you can still shoot them or still charge them, that can be really, really powerful. That's kind of niche though, because you need to have units that are close enough already to then be able to get behind your unit, often units with fly, with auto advances. So like if you can move like 16 to 18 to 20 inches and get behind the unit, you're kind of sacrificing your unit, but you might still be able to do something with it. You might be able to do a secondary or kill a chaff unit and then still be able to block it so you can kill that other piece. And then, yeah, the last thing to do is just shoot them. Like, you don't have to proc the reactives, right? Like, as long as you don't have to get within the distance, usually 9 inches, to to engage the reactive, then just don't. Use your guns. Use your other abilities to be able to push them. You might only be able to kill 1 or 2 guys because you might only get 1 activation because there's only a couple of guys that you can see. So you might not want to put too many guns out. So you might just want to put 1 or 2 things out, enough to like kill the guys that you can see, but not anymore. And yes, they might get a tempo swing from that, but like at least you're playing your game. You're not trying to play into your opponent's game. But there is also times where you just want to be like, cool, where are your reactive moving? And you just move everything forward. And then once they react to move, at least then nothing else can change. So then you can move in different times. Part 4, the summary. So in summary, I'm just going to go over some of the key things you can do with reactive moves, just to kind of give you an idea of what you can do with them. So the first thing you can do is deny objective control. So you can reactive, so say they needed to storm hostile objective, as you can reactive move more models onto the point so then they don't control it. You can disrupt charges by intertwining 2 units so they're forced to charge 2 units instead of the 1, so then you have a chance to interrupt or do something against it. You can use it just to gain cover. Sometimes paying 1 CP just to get +1 to your armor save can be the difference between life and death. You can use it to set up an overwatch. You can set up a reactive move a unit out, so then if they move another unit, maybe you can, with a couple of inches, you can get access so your overwatch piece can see an entire objective. It's like, well, if you go on that objective now, I get to overwatch you. So things that your opponent didn't plan for earlier can now be something that they have to deal with. You can use it to block deep strikes, because often, especially in the movement phase ones, they haven't put their deep strikes down yet. So if you react and move, you can block a place where they maybe wanted to react to deep strike down or put reserves in. You can kind of block those areas out if you've seen a gap that was made. Maybe you didn't hit a charge, or you did hit a charge and now there's a gap behind you. You can use it just to fix it. Your unit's probably still dead, but potentially blocking the deep strike to do a secondary, to get a charge off, or whatever it might be, might actually be beneficial to you. Yeah, again, creating heroic intervention traps by reactive moving with fights first, or a durable unit, or just a unit that is durable or big enough that it can take the impact of a lot of the hit and then still hit back really hard. Very, very strong ability. You can also use it to get within an aura range, and this is as simple as, I get, there's an AOC aura from, say, like a Zeraz or something like that from Necrons. I just want to get back within that range. Cool. You can just, reactive move, make sure you get a guy within range. To say like a Mortarian, you want to get with the fight on death potential aura, stuff like that. All these kinds of different things that you can utilize to benefit yourself. You can also use it to deny secondaries. So say your opponent pulled storm hostile objective, or like overwhelming force, kill units that started the turn on an objective. You can move them back off and make them a much harder unit to deal with. So then maybe they're actually not scoring that card, and they're just going to cycle it at the end of turn because you were able to get behind a wall and they don't want to charge you or whatever. All of these things are incredibly situational, but are all very, very powerful things that you can do. So I think with these and a lot of other things, I can't go over absolutely everything you can do with reactive moves, but these are kind of the main things that you can see in game. Most of the time it's just, I want to keep this unit alive, so I'm going to move it back. But there is so many different things you can do, and you really need to start thinking every time you're allowed to react a move, or you're letting your opponent react a move, what is the worst case scenario? What if they roll the 6? What if they do this? Does this flip the game in their favor? There's so many different things that can happen there. So just really think about it and start testing things out, especially in your practice games. Try setting up a heroic play, or try setting up an overwatch. You're never going to do them in a tournament game unless you practice them in your other games and see, hey, this actually felt really good. Oh, actually, no, this wasn't worth it. The 2 CP for a reactive move into an Overwatch just wasn't really worth it for me. Or, hey, this is actually an absolute game-winning play. You won't know that until you start playing with them and get a feel for it. So don't just use them defensively, use them aggressively. Try them out in a bunch of different... Anyway, guys, I hope you really enjoyed this video. There is a link to my Patreon and Discord down below. Join the Discord. I'm going to start posting lists in there that you guys can go over. Post your own lists. I'll comment on them. I'll see what I think, and we can kind of work on how we can get better at the game. There's a bunch of different channels in there, so I've just set it up, so hopefully it all works quite well. Otherwise, there will be a video either here or here on what to watch next. Otherwise, see you guys next time.